back with the breaking news. If you think that President Trump's announcement this afternoon came out of nowhere, that he's pardoning former New York City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik and commuting the sentence of former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, just go back through Fox News archives to see where the president may have gotten the idea. Kerik appeared just last night on the president's favorite channel, and Blagojevich's wife, Patty, has been making pleas for her husband on Fox multiple times, which the president said he watched. Our panel's here to chew over this, and just take a listen. Here is Rod Blagojevich's wife, Patty, on Fox.
Is there any update? Do you think that you're getting anywhere with your request to have him pardoned by the president?
Well, I know the president's got a lot on his hands, that's for sure. I mean, all you have to do is look at your show tonight. But, you know, when he mentioned my husband last May, it did give us a tremendous amount of hope.
So, I mean, this does seem to be the way to get a pardon, is to get friendly Fox hosts to take on your cause, and you just appear on the channel until the president tweets it and then orders it.
I think the other way to get a pardon is to have a pending sentencing or possible jail term for someone who might have a lot of information on the president, who's an acquaintance of the president, who's involved in the president's campaign.
Who hasn't flipped.
Roger Stone, right, and whose sentencing is Thursday, right, who hasn't flipped. And you want to remind Roger Stone, you probably want to remind Paul Manafort, who is having a tough time, presumably, and having actually been in jail now for a bit, that, you know, hang in there, hang in there. I use the pardon power. And guess what? Maybe I won't use it until November 4th, the day after Election Day, but he certainly will use it then, and he's signaling that.
And Mehdi, if you look at the list of crimes these guys are accused of, fraud, lying to officials, corruption, they're very similar to what we've seen from President Trump's associates and friends.
And this is who Trump is. And, you know, he said, I'm going to drain the swamp. And you just look at the three most high-profile ones today. You've got Kerik, the former police chief, tax fraud, I think he was convicted for. You've got Michael Milken, former investment banker, securities fraud. And you've got, of course, Rod Blagojevich, who tried to sell a Senate seat. So this is Donald Trump, champion of blue-collar working people, scourge of corruption. But, you know, this is how he said today, I don't think Blagojevich did anything that other politicians would do. He said in the past, this classic Trumpian projection. It's like he thinks of a bad thing and he goes, well, everyone does it. He said, today I think he said, he seems like a very nice guy. Just to be clear, Rod Blagojevich didn't just try and sell Obama's Senate seat. He withheld government funding for a children's hospital, Jake, for a children's hospital, until he got a campaign contribution in return. So commuting his sentence is very on brand for Trump, if you think about it. And for Trump, it's like there's Obama, there's Jim Comey's FBI, there's the wife on Fox News, he was on Celebrity Apprentice. It's like a perfect Trumpian storm.
And Shan, you've worked with the Office of the Pardon Attorney. To be clear, you were out of the loop, perhaps intentionally so, on the Mark Rich pardon, which I talked about earlier. What would be Attorney General Barr's involvement in all of this? Theoretically, he was part of the discussions.
Well, we don't know that, but
right.
Normally the pardon attorney does a pretty extensive background investigation. They're going to talk to prosecutors. They're going to get recommendations. And commutation, very different than pardon. Commutation is reducing the length of the sentence. They normally look at things like age, illness, things like that. In this instance, I mean, the pardon attorney's office seems to be sort of an extinct animal at the moment. I don't know what kind of input they have. But notably, there is a question, which is, where is Barr on this issue? I mean, with Milken, for example, another one, pardon was issued today, Trump is again undermining the prosecution, saying this was kind of a novel idea. I mean, insider trading is not a novel prosecution idea, and he's putting down the prosecution. Where's Barr to stand up for the fact that, hey, we stand behind our prosecutions?
And well, he's been bad-mouthing prosecutors for quite some time now, the president. And you know, like 5 Republicans from the Illinois congressional delegation issued a joint statement saying they're disappointed with the decision to commute Blagojevich's sentence. Democratic Senator Dirk Durbin said that Blagojevich, a fellow Democrat, betrayed the people of Illinois, should be held accountable. There is some bipartisan unity there. I guess my real question about, are those 5 Republicans from the Illinois congressional delegation going to do anything about it?
Probably not. I mean, from what we've seen from Republicans so far, I mean, I think you could argue that they gave the president license to essentially do what he wanted to do because of what happened previously in his administration. Obviously, the impeachment comes foremost to mind. So, no, I mean, I think they'll be concerned, but that's about it. Listen, I think what we might be talking about months from now might not necessarily be these commutations and pardons, but the commutations of average people, right? And this is something that I think would would get bipartisan support and certainly some support among progressives. There are two people on this list, Tyneese Nicole Hall and Crystal Munoz, women who were caught up in the drug trade, served multiple years in prison, and whose sentences have been commuted. We've seen the president make the argument that he's on the side of criminal justice reform in a way that Democrats haven't been. We saw the Alice Marie Johnson ad, for instance, and I imagine that we can see some of these folks on this list, particularly these two women, used in the same way that Donald Trump is using.
Is that not an example of criminal?
Because if you look at the numbers, Barack Obama, I think, commuted or pardoned, went through the process of nearly 4,000 people. In his first 3 years, Trump has, I think, done 200, of which 24 people prior to today got pardons, of which only 5 were ordinary people. The other 19 were connected to the White House or the Trump campaign. He has the lowest record when it comes to pardons and commutations.
And Shan, because I knew we're losing you after this block, Trump said Blagojevich was convicted for being stupid. I recall the case, and it was a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah. And also, stupid's not normally a factor that the pardon attorney takes into consideration. That's usually part of the criminal justice system. The problem here is that in terms of the integrity of the system, public confidence in it, it's completely gone because there's no system at all. I mean, he just chooses whoever he wants to choose. It tends to be whoever has his attention at the moment. And if you want people to respect the power of the executive, you have to make them feel like he's actually looking at the merits of the case, not just whatever happens to catch his attention that night on Fox.
And whether or not they're his friends.
And people who he can put in TV ads. As you say, think about that for a minute. You're pardoning people so you can make appeals to certain communities.
They put it in fundraising.
To certain communities in an election campaign. And it's not entirely stupid as a pure political matter. Oh, he has some sympathy for us. You might shave your negative margins in the African American or Hispanic communities, but it's a heck of a reason to